6:32. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Here.
Commissioner Ransford,
Here.
Commissioner Morris,
Here.
Mayor Al,
Here.
and Chair Gadd.
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Item 1D, general public input, limited to 10 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker. If anyone's here that would like to discuss something that's not on tonight's agenda, step forward.
Yeah.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Josh Joswick, 64 South Los Pinos Drive. I didn't realize you guys were this popular. Everybody showed up tonight. I have a question, and it evidently is going to be talked about later on, but it's not specific to a development. How does the town deal with off-site impacts of a development? Is that in your code? You can get back to me on that. If you don't deal with that, that's what I want to talk to you about. You need to deal with that, and I can give you specific instances as to where it was not dealt with and it was detrimental. Probably first and foremost is Dove Ranch. The second one is Mustang Crossing. The third one is I'm a ditch rider for the Lateral B ditch. When Pine River Commons put their retention ponds in, the first heavy rain we had, it all came out right into our ditch, and that's not good. They've gone ahead and they've tried to fix it, and subsequently it is not going into our ditch, but it's going into the field and across the field and into people's yards. So I guess my point is, when you're reviewing projects, a big part of it should be what exactly happens off-site, and how can an applicant ameliorate whatever it is that you see is going to be detrimental off-site. Those assessments need to be made, and evidently they aren't now. I don't think you're prohibited from doing that by state law, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not really sure. But it's an issue, and I think the town should look at that, given the fact that we are now annexing and going to be developing a lot more than what we have already. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Good point. Well, I guess we'll kick it around here. See if we can get some answers.
Yeah, and get it in the code and define how exactly it is that you're going to deal with those impacts. Identify them and how you're going to deal with them. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Lassiter. I live at 6855 County Road 523, and I'm a shareholder on the Campbell Lateral Ditch. My irrigation water comes from that ditch, and it is incumbent upon us to see that the water is protected. I'm here to request to not allow the next phase of construction to begin until all of the issues that have not been resolved in Phase 1A have been satisfied. Thank you.
Lucy Stewart. I have to agree with what's going on with what Josh said about the ditch, the lateral B, the field flooding out, and what we're getting the impact of what it's doing to our homes. And we have had an issue for 14 weeks in Bayfield on Bay Estates, which is Appaloosa and Pony. We had a truck parked in the middle of the street. impacted the trash, impacted people going by. We, of almost everybody in the subdivision, I've talked to everybody in the subdivision, have almost been hit. We couldn't get Bayfield Marshal to do nothing. We couldn't get the manager for the town to do anything. Something needs to break, guys. You can't just keep adding and adding. You need to take care of and make sure that we that have been carrying everything on our backs since I've been here since '77, and every time there's issues, who pays for it? We do. And you keep doing more and more development, and you do not hold these people accountable. I'm right below comments, and that thing is a joke. And now, not only are they doing more building on there, but now they have Trash Panda in there with containers. What do those containers hold? And if it rains or melts or whatever, what is in those containers that's going to impact my livelihood down the stream? I really think you guys need to be looking at this a little bit longer. And also, I've been listening to all this traffic studies, to all these meetings. And you know what? Yesterday, at 11 o'clock, we couldn't even get close to the Conoco, or I guess it's called Speedway now. We couldn't even get close to that to turn and go up to the hardware store. We couldn't even get across. We sat there for about 5 to 10 minutes, and all these studies that they are doing, and I kept looking at that and thinking, you know what? They're going to put that, Ironton's going to put all those motorhomes. How are they going to get it, and where is the safety to this? I had kids running and walking this evening as I come down the road from my place. You know what? There's no safety for these kids when they get out there. They get on a bike, they don't pay attention. Motor scooters, they don't care. But we need to watch out, but also the town needs to look at the safety of the people that are living in this community. Thank you.
No other general public input. We'll move to item 1E, planning commissioners disclose conflicts of interest.
I have a conflict on item 2D and will recuse myself.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes. One G, approval of minutes from April 14th, 2026. Motion.
Make a motion to approve the April 14th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
I'll second that one.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes.
Can I request you either turn your mics on or speak up, because we can't hear nothing.
Test. Come on. I'll use the gym voice.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Go, Vaughn.
Moving on, public hearing agenda, item 2A, Town of Bayfield Land Use Code Amendment, Article 2, Section 2-3, Planning Commission. A1, action on, oh, go ahead.
Good evening, Eric Spoken, Town Planner. So we went over this a little bit at the last planning commission meeting, and I went ahead and incorporated your suggestions. So, I mean, the gist of all of this is, to have a full board that is of appointed members and no elected officials. And what I did is I incorporated the residents, of course, living within the town, Bayfield town limits.
Could you speak up a little bit more clearly?
The owner. Okay, can you hear me now? Residents living within the town of Bayfield town limits, an owner of a business which is located within the town limits, so the business would be within the town limits. Individuals that reside within the 3-mile area of the town limits, which we have to have a 3-mile plan, so they would be eligible. If a member no longer meets any of those criteria, or the eligibility criteria above, the members shall immediately terminate. And a couple of the other things that were still in there, the terms of the members of the Planning Commission shall be for 4 years. At least 5 of the members, this was added in, at least 5 of the members of the Planning Commission shall at all times reside within the town of Bayfield town limits. And any appointed members shall hold no other municipal office, and a municipal office is hereby defined as the mayor, member of the Board of Trustees, or paid employee of the town of Bayfield. So it'd be a 7-member board. It'd stay a 7-member board. So that is the meat of the changes. Of course, there's a couple other little changes here and there, just fixing it to co-chairman, chairman, but that is the gist of it, and those incorporated your guys' ideas. I did run it by our town attorney, because since we are a statutory town, I ran it by him in regards to the Colorado revised statutes, and since it says that we can make these changes through ordinance, that's where we're at. So I can entertain any questions you may have.
On here.
I think that the changes make sense, and hopefully we can get people on to join up.
The only question I was wondering is with the business owners, do they need to own the property that they have the business at, or do they just need to have a business within the city limits?
Good question. I think we just went with them having a business within the town limits.
Right.
Business, there you go. There you go, yeah.
Licensed business.
Yeah, licensed business. I mean, I can make that change. I mean, it would be like a word. I can just throw in there, business license within the town limits of Bayfield.
And Bucky, when I proposed that, that was kind of my intent. If you own a business here, typically you're not gonna own the land or the property. Not typically, but in a lot of cases.
Right.
But you still have a vested interest in what goes on in town, so
Gotcha.
step up.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So,
When's this gonna go before the board?
If it is approved today, I will have it in front of the board on our June 2nd Board of Trustees meeting. There's a good chance I won't be here on Tuesday.
So do you have enough, say, interest right now in the planning commission that you'll fill some of these, like, I don't wanna leave this board short.
Right. No, as of right now, I do have 3 applicants, or 3 applications. I plan on having the June Planning Commission meeting where we make our appointments. So I'm gonna push again for some more applications. You know, I'll put it out on the Facebook page and everything like that. So if anybody wants to recruit, that would be great. You can ask me for the application. I can send it to you. There's also a link, I believe, on the Facebook page for us that you can just click on, and it'll take you to the application, fill it out, get it to me by email, hand deliver, either way.
Does our next meeting in June come before or after the board meeting?
After. So they can have this approved before our commission meeting, yeah. Like I said, I got 3, I would like to have at least 5 or 6 altogether, so that everybody can have.
The planning commission, potential planning commission members have to be approved by the planning commission and then by the board?
Right, yeah, you guys choose them, and then they have to be approved or appointed by the trustees.
Okay, so my timeline thing here is, do you want to keep me on until July?
Correct,
Is that gonna be?
so as long as we can keep the quorum, we can, yeah. I have a feeling that we'll have to have you at least, the trustee.
If the board approves this resolution, resolution on the 2nd of June, then I'm.
Technically, it does not trigger for 30 days after the board approves it. So you've got at least one more meeting, the June meeting.
I'm just making sure we got our time.
Yeah.
covered, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Well, we'll still have one, as long as the four of us are there.
I haven't checked my calendar yet.
Okay. We'll take care of that, Joe.
So I mean, this is technically, it's a public hearing for this, if we want to open up to the public.
We can't hear you again.
One motion?
We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. If anybody would like to speak on this resolution.
I know I talked about this the last time when you guys were talking about this. My concern is these 3 people, or the 3-mile radius when people sitting on the board. Are they impacted by all this that the rest of us are that are live in Bayfield? They're making resolutions and voting on stuff. You know, why are you extending it to people that don't pay taxes in Bayfield?
They still pay county taxes, they still pay state taxes, they still pay taxes.
But they're
trickle
not
down to the
impacted,
town.
okay, but they're not impacted by the decisions that you guys are making here. And I think that that's a big thing here.
Well, okay. I guess you could take any point in time that they will be impacted in the future because the expansion will continue on, at least according to the county and the way things are set up, into that 3-mile area eventually. Tomorrow, maybe not. Next year, maybe. 2 years from now, maybe. How long does it take for a project to come to fruition once this commission approves it? Sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 years. So ultimately, in my opinion, that 3-mile lot, and that group of people, and there's not that many of them, in that 3-mile section, are gonna be impacted by decisions that this commission makes. That's just my opinion.
Okay, you have yours and I have mine, but
Fair enough.
I've been here for a long time and I see that that stuff doesn't happen.
Okay.
And just for clarification, it's 2 members out of the 7.
Right.
5 will be town residents.
And you know what? All 7 can be town residents. It's just that expands the pool a bit.
Right, no more than 2.
Right.
Right.
Seeing no other public comment, I'll close the public hearing. Move on to item 2A.1, action on land use code amendment. Discussion, commissioners?
I'll move to approve the adoption resolution number 226-02, recommending that the Board of Trustees approve the land use code amendments, including the business license clarification.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes. Item 2B, adoption of planning commission bylaws and case scheduling timeline. Eric?
This was another one that we looked over at the last planning commission meeting. Really, we just tabled this because the wording in our land use code amendment would have to fit into the bylaws, and so that's why we tabled this as well. But the bylaws, real quick. So these, about 98% of these bylaws were heard and approved by the Planning Commission back in 2022. It just was never adopted by the Board of Trustees. So it's almost verbatim what that is, except for the changes that we're making in the land use code, which is the very beginning, started at membership, section 5 of the bylaws. Then everything else in here, other than a couple of formatting and, like again, co-chairman, chairman. Other than that, everything is the same as what was approved back in 2022. So that's all I got for the bylaws, and since I have the calendar on here at the same agenda item, I produced this this calendar because other locations that I've been at, we have closing dates that coincide with planning commission meetings. And it makes it a lot easier instead of grabbing stuff throughout the period of time. You know, you're supposed to have all the information in at the same time, which is something that we're going to really stick to going forward. There won't be anything that's just randomly submitted by the applicant that needs to be, for instance, reviewed or whatever during that time frame. So pretty much what you see here is on the application deadline. That deadline, so that one's passed already, but so anything that comes to me that needs to be heard by the Planning Commission needs to get to me by the 8th of June, and that will be heard, that you know, if it's the case or whatnot, that will be heard at the July 14th Planning Commission. And then if you look at the timeline I have here, this kind of shows you what I do and my time frames. So, you know, we start with the application deadline. You know, I get it submitted to the agencies, the engineers and all that for their review. They have 21 days to review it, normally, unless they're backed up, unfortunately. When the newspaper goes out, when the hearing notice goes out, the mailings for the property owners, when I should receive my agency comments, when the certified mail receipts are due, when I want to have the staff report completed. I've got a deadline for public comment included in the packet. I got a star there that says that you can still send me in that information. It just won't make it in the packet that gets mailed out to you guys. I will have it, and I will provide it to you guys like I did today, printed out information. So that information does get received. It just didn't make it on time to get on the website. Agenda packet sent, Planning Commission. So I wanted to have that ironed down so that there wasn't, you know, so we'd be more efficient, and so we would stay consistent on my role here. So I can take any questions you may have.
I'm here.
Open up the public hearing. Anybody have anything to say on this one? Seeing none, move to 2B.1, action on planning commission bylaws and case scheduling timeline.
I'll move to approve the adoption resolution numbers 2026-03 and 2026-04, recommending the Board of Trustees approve the proposed Planning Commission bylaws and case calendar timeline.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes.
And real quick on those timelines and calendars, here soon, I want to have a little bit of control over our website because it's kind of all over the place with some of the stuff that's on the planning and development site. I know it's busy, it can get lost, but I will be putting the calendar timelines here soon. I'll be redoing the applications and making those easier to find and all that. So it's part of the plan. It might be a little bit longer to take, you know, but it'll get done.
Item 2C, Mustang Crossing Phase 1B and 1C preliminary plan for 13.86 acres, generally located south and east of the intersection of Mustang Drive and Sunflower Lane. Derek?
Okay, yeah, before I start this, I'll do, you know, a brief presentation, but as you can tell and as the applicants know, you know, I do recommend that we table this case. So I'm going to give a little bit of a, you know, the background and everything on this case, and if, you know, the applicants want to come up and speak, we'll open it to public hearing. But again, there's a very, very high chance that it'll be tabled so that some of these issues can be resolved. Any public comment that's taken in today will be recorded and will be, on the record. And so just to kind of give you a heads up if you want to speak now or speak at the next meeting in June when we go over this again. So hopefully by the meeting in June, some of the issues that are identified in the staff report have been taken care of so that we can continue on with this case. So just want to give everybody a heads up on that one. So yeah, like you said, this is Mustang Crossing Phase 1B and 1C preliminary plan. It's on 13.86 acres south and east of the intersection of Sunflower Lane and Mustang Drive. A correction, it says future uses. It says 37 single-family residential uses. It's actually units. It's actually 28. So some of the surrounding uses is vacant ag land, single-family residential, some more vacant ag land, and pretty much single-family residential and vacant ag land. So the applicant is requesting an approval of a preliminary plan for Phase 1B and 1C of the Mustang Crossing subdivision. The proposal includes approximately 28 single-family residential lots, public rights-of-way, open space tracts, and associated infrastructure necessary to support continued phase development of the subdivision. The subject property is located along the southeast boundary of the town and is contiguous with the previously approved and constructed Phase 1A of Mustang Crossing, as well as the Mesa Meadows, Clover Meadows subdivision. Phase 1B and 1C, that site is currently vacant with the exception of some irrigation infrastructure to the east and a gas well. Access to the site is proposed through extending connections established with Phase 1A, including extensions of Mustang Drive and Louisiana Drive. So Mustang Crossing, the subdivision, was annexed into the town and approved for development in April of 2022, and it included zoning and a preliminary plan allowing for approximately 81 single-family lots across multiple phases. The annexation agreement was executed on January of 2022, and it established specific requirements related to the infrastructure, drainage, and coordination with adjacent landowners and irrigation facilities. Phase 1A received final plan approval and a subdivision agreement back in June of 2023, and infrastructure associated with that phase has been constructed. So the current application does represent the next phase of development, but remains subject to all the previous approved agreements, including the annexation agreement, as well as the town's land use code and infrastructure standards. Nicole Killian, who's the previous planner, did a great job of putting together a project history here that you can find in the staff report, and I had to refer back on that for some of this information since I'm new to this particular case. But yeah, that's pages 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's a very thorough history. I added the last piece, which was May 2nd, 2023. Okay. So the project review, so section 3.5 of the Town of Bayfield Land Use Code does identify the intent of a preliminary plan review as evaluating whether the proposed subdivision complies with the technical requirements, design standards, and improvement requirements of the town. Planning Commission shall review the proposal for site planning characteristics and compatibility with the adjoining land uses. So we went through that. So at the preliminary plan stage, the town does evaluate whether the proposed subdivision complies with the applicable technical requirements. Staff has reviewed the submitted materials, including the preliminary plan, drainage information, utility plans, traffic analysis, landscape plans, and referral comments. A big chunk of referral comments I did get after the staff report was sent out. Another reason why we should probably table this. And a lot of that information was sent to the agencies, and they did send back comments, comments that I did send to you guys. And the applicant has also got a copy of the comments as well. Now, here is a condition of the original sketch plan and preliminary plan approvals required the applicant to provide a design for rerouting the existing irrigation systems on the property together with approval from the ditch easement holders and any necessary agency permits. Staff has not received documentation demonstrating approval from the Campbell Lateral Ditch Company for the proposed irrigation modifications, and correspondence submitted into the record indicates the ditch company has not approved any proposed design. Additionally, unresolved drainage concerns remain regarding the functionality of the Phase 1A stormwater system and impacts to adjacent agricultural properties. Adjacent property owners or landowners assert that the stormwater runoff has been redirected from a historic sheet flow patterns into a concentrated flow that have negatively impacted the agricultural operations. Required drainage easements and finalized mitigation measures have not been demonstrated. Now, I did write in the staff report that staff noted that there is an unresolved stormwater compliance concern associated with CDPHE. That has been addressed and resolved. That happened a couple months ago, actually. So there was an issue there, but that was resolved. But we don't have any agreements with the Campbell Lateral. Let's go through here. A lot of that is the agency comments. So, like I said, based on the information available at the time of the staff report was completed, staff does recommend that Mustang Crossing Phase 1B, 1C be tabled, and that recommendation is based on the following 5 reasons, and based on the findings you find at the end of the staff report. I have placed possible motions there at the end of the staff report as well. First one is table. At the same time, we could move to approve it so far as conditions were set forth that those specific issues are addressed before it goes any further. So we do have applicants that can probably address some of these issues here to address. I know we have some people here in the audience right now that do want to speak on this as well. So I feel that we should all, since it's a public hearing, we need to give them the ability to speak on this. We will record all their comments and everything like that, so they don't have to come back. I mean, they can come back, of course, but they don't have to come back and say the same thing. So at this time, I'll allow the applicant to come up unless you have any questions of me.
Not here.
Yep.
I'm Jeff Jorgensen, the managing partner of Mustang Crossing. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to give you a little history on the Mustang background for those of you that may not know about it. And I'm an Arizona resident, but I think it's important to know I've owned a summer home here in Southwest Colorado for over 35 years. So I'm not an outsider per se, but part of this community, and I love being here. 6 years ago, Glenn Moselle contacted me. He needed a financial partner to develop the subdivision that is now Mustang Crossing. And I thought it was a good project, and I joined him. We had that project annexed into the town of Bayfield, proving 81 lots. And we did the first phase of the development was 19 lots, so that's in existence. Mustang has, done that improvement. They are in compliance, and we, are happy to be part of this community. We've sold it 8 lots. 2 of them one is finished residence, and the 2 others are under construction. So my plan and the desire is to do phase 2. I know that you're considering putting this on hold, but I think you need to know that we are anxious to go ahead and approve the next phase if you approve this. So Mustang is in compliance. They've done nothing wrong. In the first phase, we adhered to the approved plans from the town and from this planning commission. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. And I would like, and following me, Paul Kosnick to answer some questions that I think are still floating around with the issues surrounding the first phase of a development. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for allowing me to talk in your time, and thanks to staff for putting together the staff report and all the work. So my name is Paul Kosnick. I'm with Eggleston Kosnick in Durango, and I've been representing Mustang Crossing for a few years now. And really, I just want to hit on the three items that were raised in the staff report, the three main items of concern. And that's the drainage. In the CDPHE, it sounds like now, you know, the town is comfortable that there's no violations, there's no existing violations. CDPHE has put that in writing a couple months ago, and the town moved forward with that position by allowing for building permits out there. So the CDPHE issue, I don't think is on the table anymore. So that leaves the only other issue being the ditch out there. And hopefully you got my letter. I apologize, it was on Friday, and I don't think it made it into the staff report, and you know that information wasn't in there. But I won't repeat everything that was in that letter, and hopefully you got it. So starting with the drainage issue, Mustang Crossing has been working with the neighbors for a long period of time. The neighbor has had concerns about drainage. And if you've been out there, the drainage is kind of in this low area, and it kind of goes through the field of the neighbor, in this low area. And the engineers kind of built a drainage system around the historic drainage, and it complied with every standard, every requirement out there. And in January of this year, the town's engineers, SGM, provided a letter and specifically said that that the drainage system meets all standards, and they had no further comments. And that was in January of this year. And so the complaints by the one neighbor is focused on this drainage, but there's nothing that we know that supports any of these allegations that the drainage has been incorrectly engineered, constructed, or any of that, or it doesn't meet any town standards. It's the neighbor who doesn't like where this historic drainage flows. And unfortunately for the neighbor, I mean, the law is that is part of the historic drainage. Sorry, we can't hear you. Sorry. This went off. Try this. Batteries?
Last time they were there. I looked back at one time and I had no luck. Here's one. Yeah, it's double A. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So I think I just left off that the neighbors, while they aren't happy with where the drainage is, that's the historic drainage. And Mustang Crossing has tried to find solutions to help them. And look, piping drainage across their property is surely desirable for them, and it will be a huge benefit for that property in the future. And I imagine someday that property will be developed. But it's not an obligation under the code, law, or anything for Mustang Crossing to fix a historic drainage and pipe through that field. And I'll just touch briefly on the ditch issue. So the ditch is part of Phase 2. That's where the ditch is. And the annexation agreement doesn't require that, the piping, that the ditch company has to approve, sign off on anything as part of this Phase 1 in front of you. Certainly as part of Phase 2, when and if that comes before you, that's going to be a requirement, and it's going to be piped at that time. And this was confirmed as part of the first Phase 1A. Nicole Killian wrote, specifically that any ditch agreements and bonding will be required at the development phase when the developer is piping the ditch. That's Phase 2. So that's been the position of the town, that that is not part of the Phase 1 requirements. The requirement is part of the Phase 2 that will be hopefully before you at some point. And then from a practical perspective, the disturbance isn't going to be in Phase 2. There's a swale kind of in the edge of between Phase 1 and Phase 2 to prevent runoff from going that way. The ditch is elevated, and that further would prevent, even if there was some kind of runoff going in that direction, it would prevent it from making it into the ditch. So it's not a requirement of Phase 1 under the code, under the annexation agreement, or otherwise. And the Darren Stewart, who's an engineer with SEH, is also here to provide any kind of input or technical assistance on those matters. But we're asking for the commission today to approve this project with reasonable conditions and allow Mustang to move forward and it not be held up based on allegations, mainly from the neighbor. Thank you.
Questions for the applicant at this time? Should we go ahead and open up the public hearing? If you'd like to speak on it, come up and state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kim Perdue. I'm an attorney practicing in Durango, and I'm here on behalf of the Campbell Lateral Ditch Company and also the Ludwigs, who you know as the neighbor. Do you want my address? It's 679 East 2nd Avenue in Durango. The Campbell Lateral Ditch Company and the Ludwigs asked me to be here tonight to respectfully ask you to adhere to planning staff's recommendation to table this application until the developer has shown compliance with the plain written language of the annexation agreement and the SAA. Now, my colleague Paul was up here arguing that essentially those conditions aren't necessary and therefore the town should retroactively disregard them. Essentially amend the annexation agreement that was a resolution of the town, of the Board of Trustees, and amend the subdivision improvement agreement, which carried forward the annexation agreement's requirements, was also an action of the town Board of Trustees, to which the developer agreed and signed. The fact that the developer now considers, in hindsight, we didn't really need those things, is not a legal or sound or fair reason to disregard the requirements they agreed to over 4 years ago. If you were kind enough to read my 2 long letters, you already understand the impacts that the Ludwigs have suffered, and I believe other neighbors have also suffered due to a change to historic drainage, which has created a concentrated point source discharge, i.e. a 30-foot culvert draining out of a detention pond that now collects all the drainage that used to accumulate and flow as a sheet flow over a 1,000-foot boundary. Now it's concentrated into a 30-foot culvert. Engineers may say that's fine, and the engineering may comply with the town's requirements to the extent it's stamped and approved. It does not change the fact that the impacts to the Ludwigs field is unmitigated. And it does not change the fact that before Mustang Crossing was allowed to create that impact on the Ludwig's field, they were required to obtain an easement for stormwater drainage from the Ludwigs. They have not. They were required to obtain the Campbell Lateral Ditch Company's consent to reroute the surface pipeline to facilitate the development of Phase 2. The annexation agreement doesn't mention phases. The subdivision improvement agreement doesn't mention phases. And furthermore, if now isn't the time to say, hold on, 4 years ago, you as the developer who was asking for the town's permission to build a subdivision agreed to these measures in writing. Why not? When is that time? Is it when Phase 2 happens and they say, you know what, actually the ditch is fine, we don't need to reroute it? Is it when Phase 2 is completed and they say, you know what, still the neighbors are making stuff up? Respectfully, you guys have seen the Ludwigs before, they've been here. They would not have spent these hours and hours and hours of their busy lives if their field was just fine. And nor would they have ever planted and plowed or grazed that field if it had been always impacted by the drainage, as Mr. Kosnick suggests. The excellent summary which Ms. Killian prepared, which Mr. Slocum referenced, contains an additional issue which we hadn't been aware of before, and that's the conditional approval of the 2022 Resource Extraction Use by Review application, which required Mustang Crossing to construct a split rail fence to demarcate a 40-foot no-build easement, or a 40-foot easement, which is labeled a no-build area on the plat along the subdivision's northern boundary. That no-build area contains a gas pipeline and a water line, and a water pipeline, which is another lateral off the Campbell lateral that supplies irrigation water to the Ludwigs and many other downstream irrigators. That fence was never constructed, and just recently the owner of Lot 17 built a privacy fence encroaching into the no-build area with concrete foundations that are inches from the Campbell lateral pipeline. So this is another example of, if not now, when? That fence is built, others can be expected to proceed and build fences in that unmarked no-build area. And this simply doesn't have to happen. The Planning Commission has an opportunity to say to the developer respectfully, you agreed to these conditions, you agreed to these terms, please perform them before we consider the next phase. The developer is a sophisticated professional company with resources. They have contributed vast amounts of information and participation in this process. Why can't they perform these few outstanding things that the town determined in 2022 were important enough to put in writing in signed and recorded documents before it gave the green light to the annexation and the subdivision in concept? The town understood that creating additional impervious area, changing drainage patterns, building over irrigation ditches, piping irrigation ditches has impacts to the community and to businesses, to individuals and businesses who farm and ranch in the area. And the town took measures at that time to protect those individuals and those businesses. I understand the developer's position that they wish to move forward, but they haven't supplied any reason why those conditions and requirements should simply wink out of existence now that it is more convenient for them. Briefly regarding the CDPHE. We did hear from the CDPHE just the other day, and we understand that the developer has submitted documentation which they consider to be acceptable and will eventually resolve the notice of violation, but it has not actually been lifted. I understand there is still a consent agreement that is outstanding without a timeline that will fully resolve and put a pin in the CDPHE's prior enforcement action. So we would also respectfully suggest that if the commission is so inclined, we could await the full resolution of that process and not green light it from the CDPHE violation perspective at this middle of the road status. The conditions in the annexation agreement, in the subdivision improvements agreement, in the use by review conditions, and the general land use code requirement that stormwater discharge shall not negatively impact the neighbors, all are there for reasons, and this is a chance that the Planning Commission has to ask the developer, please do what you said you were going to do, and then we can proceed and we can all get along. Thank you very much.
Do you want to hold this for me? Because Alan can't stand. Do you want Evan to hold it? Do you want
Are you going to hold it? All right, Alan's going to hold it. All right.
It's an easel.
I know. Hi, Marion Tone and Alan Tone, 1495. Sorry, I gotta hold it this way. Sorry, you don't have an accommodation for somebody who broke their leg in December and can't stand for 10 minutes straight here. So, Marion and Alan Tone, 1495, County Road 526, Bayfield, Colorado. We are another one of the neighbors. Oh, great. All right, so I looked at the staff report, which was excellent. I don't think that it gave perspective of this ditch, and I think it's important for everyone to see how this works, and I'll have it here if anybody in the audience wants to look at it later. First of all, raise your hand if you think the town of Bayfield should protect its neighbors. Pretty much everybody in the audience. This neighborhood of remaining rural agricultural people, we're kind of a one for all and all for one kind of group. So it was a little bit insulting, the language about one neighbor, because what affects the Ludwigs affects us. If the Ludwigs are getting flooded out, we can't run our water because it will flood them out, so it affects all of us. All right, so here's the Tones property, which on your property list is the Lazy KT Longview Ranch, formerly the Pelican property, formerly the Campbells, formerly the blah, blah, blah. I've been there for a really long time. The Campbell Lateral comes off of this offshoot from the Schroeder. This is not to scale, in case anybody thinks the Campbell Lateral is that big. It's not, but no pen that I could find would mark it, so I used painter's tape. So the Campbell Lateral comes off. Here's the Tone property. This is our property line. It comes south from the water here, comes down across the southern part of the Tone property. This is Mustang Crossing. And then here is the neighbor, the Ludwigs. And then it returns to the Tone property. This is the what we still call the trust land. It's in the Albert Kent and Loretta E. Tone Trust. Before that, it was the Sittons. I don't know who had it before the Sittons because they had it forever, as far as I know. It comes down across the Tone property. This is the well road that comes up because this is an old BP well. I don't know who owns it now. And then the ditch kind of traverses over this way across the property. Thank you. And then goes to the Cavanis's property. And then several others take water off of that ditch. And thanks. And eventually crosses over into the Southern Ute tribal property. So that's the Campbell Lateral. I think it's important for you to get the perspective on it because all you had in the staff package, understandably, was just the segment that crosses Mustang Crossing. I think you need to see the neighbors that are affected by it. What we're terrified of is a death. We're terrified of a child falling into this ditch from Mr. Jorgensen's subdivision and dying. And it happens all the time in Colorado. In 2002, a 2-year-old fell into a smaller ditch than this, much smaller ditch than this, in Silk, Colorado, and died before anybody could get to it. Phyllis Ludwig could not be here tonight. She had to travel, but she tells a story about a death right here in Bayfield from an unprotected ditch. We're terrified of that. You can imagine how terrifying it is to think of a child dying in the ditch. This is why the town of Bayfield has begun to take it seriously for all subdivisions to pipe these ditches. Number one, because of the risk of death. Number two, because of the risk to the rural ag owners. We all know what kind of stuff comes down these ditches. I remember a day when there was so much garbage blocking the Schroeder ditch that we had to get Gerald Ludwig out there and Alan, about 4 other guys in our giant loader, to pull a 50-gallon drum out of the culvert that was blocking the ditch and was going to flood our property. So any piping that's done has to be done carefully so the backflow doesn't come up and flood our property and doesn't erode away the neighbor property south of Mustang Crossing. So this takes a lot of work to figure out how to make this work. And unfortunately, although I respect Mr. Jorgensen as an important builder, I grew up in a land use development family. My father built quite a lot of Southern California, so I respect the commitment and the hard work that goes into these projects. But Mr. Jorgensen hasn't reached out to us, the neighbor, in the last 3 or 4 years. Not a word. As a matter of fact, we didn't even get the notice of this hearing that we were required to get. I saw that we were on the list for certified mail, but we didn't receive it. I also want to point out before I forget that on the list of agencies that were notified, you don't see the Campbell Lateral on your list. I think you need to redo all of the notice and provide official notice to the Campbell Lateral. The Campbell Lateral is an incorporated ditch, separate and distinct from the Schroeder, to whom you did give notice. One other point I want to make that has to be addressed for the preservation of property rights. Right here, this green line is actually Schroeder water, ditch water, that comes across the old Ludwood property, now Mustang Crossing, and then returns to the Tone property, what we call the third pasture. Over here, it is the only source of, only conveyance of water that makes sense for that pasture. Engineers have been trying to study this and figure out how to make it work. Once Mustang Crossing wants to block that water, that is our property right and it needs to be protected. So that comes right along here. That's the other issue I wanted to point out. So what we're afraid of secondarily, besides the risk of someone dying in the ditch, and the reason we were late to the meeting today is because we had to run the dogs from the mobile home park off of the property because they were harassing the Cavanis's cows. So it could also be an animal that, I'm a dog lover, I'd hate to have to go to a neighbor and tell them their dog is dead in our ditch. Right now, the only fencing that goes, that protects the ditch is a supposedly no-climb fence. But I'd love you folks to come do a field trip out there because you walk along, I mean, I can see it from our property. The no-climb fence ends, and then there's a big giant agricultural swinging gate. If anybody grew up in the area, everybody knows how to get through a metal gate. You can go under it. If you're small enough, you can go through it. If you're tall enough, you can go over it. So it's effectively not keeping anybody out of the ditch right now. Right now, it's a hazard. The other thing that we're really concerned about is that, look, we all know what happened with Dove Ranch. We all know what happened with Dove Ranch. The important improvements that were supposed to protect the Schroeder ditch were pushed off and pushed off and pushed off and never got built. And so now that area is dealing, the Schroeder ditch is dealing with it, the property owners are dealing with it because the developer got off scot-free because it got pushed back and back and back to the final phase. I was here, Mr. Black was here when the annexation discussion happened. I begged, I remember almost crying, begging the town board to deal with these issues at the time of the annexation and not putting them off. And the answer that the town leadership gave me was, this is just the initial approval, we'll deal with those issues later. Well, now here we are later, and they haven't been dealt with. We were promised, actually by Ms. Killian, in a meeting here at Town Hall, that not a single building permit would be issued until that ditch was piped. Apparently, Mr. Jorgensen got a different answer, but that's what we were told. So we are requesting, first of all, and I also support everything Ms. Perdue said. She's been looking at this carefully. So I actually am requesting that you deny the project. I think this developer has had years to do this right. I don't think we should table it. I think we should deny it. And he can come back and submit a new application when he's ready to do the work he promised to do when the annexation was first considered. And I think tabling it just puts everybody under an immense amount of pressure, especially this time of year when every irrigator is incredibly busy. We got to get our water early because we might run out this year. So putting pressure on this rural community to deal with this in the next 30 days is not fair. I think this developer has had long enough. I don't know how this slipped through the cracks, but I'm hoping that you won't let that happen again. Let's not have Bayfield known for the Dove Ranch syndrome. Let's do it right. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Is that right? There you go. Okay, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Paige Ludwig, also known as the neighbor. I spent the entire day going through paperwork. I lost an entire day of work reviewing documents, reading emails, looking at this. And honestly, it makes me sick, physically ill, dealing with this. 4 years, thousands of dollars, untold stress and trauma to us to be told it's just because we don't like this. We're not trying to stop the development. We are trying to ask them, and we've asked nicely and we've been ignored, to do it correctly. We want this handled the way that it should have been handled from the very beginning. The annexation agreement, the subdivision improvement agreement, everything that was laid out that was signed and agreed upon by the town, by the company that's developing it. At the time, it was Glenn Mazel and it was J-Bar Development. It now belongs to Jeff Jorgensen, Mustang Crossing. It doesn't say that the ditch had to be piped. It said that there had to be an agreement from the Campbell lateral for the proposed changes. That was never done. It wasn't until April of '24 that we got our first drawing of the proposed piping of the ditch, which was absolutely terrible. Our engineer reviewed it, we sent it back, we did not accept it because it's for the convenience of the development. It has nothing to do with a usable ditch for the Campbell lateral and for all the people that depend on that water. They want to move the ditch, they want to put a bunch of bends in it, they want to cause things that are going to cause us untold problems. If this happens the way that they planned, it will never be right. I am telling you right now, Kim is exactly right. We wouldn't have been here for the last 4 years. We wouldn't have come to all the town board meetings. We wouldn't have spent all this money. We were promised fixes to the problem, and we spent lots of money with engineers. We spent all this time to do it, and then nothing ever came to fruition. We were told we were going to have a meeting with Mr. Jorgensen in January. He never got back in touch with us. We have tried to resolve this. What we are asking for you guys to do is do what is actually right. Follow the legal documents that were signed, follow the annexation agreement, enforce the subdivision improvement agreement, make the developer comply with the terms that they agreed to. We are not trying to stop the development. We are just asking them to correct the problems that they caused. And if they had done it correctly, it wouldn't have been an issue. Regardless of what the engineer says from looking at the GIS or looking at a map, I can tell you from the Ludwig family living there since the 1800s, they have changed the historic drainage. This is not a problem that was ever had by any of the family that have lived there and ranched and farmed there since the 1800s. This is all new since the Mustang Crossing went in. All of this problem is just on the first, and they say 19 lots, but it's only 18 lots. All of this is just from 18 lots, and we're talking about 6 acres. And now they're wanting to do another almost 80 lots. If we've got this much damage from that small of an area, if they are allowed to develop the rest of this, and they leave that pond and they leave that discharge the way that it currently is, we are going to have a Grand Canyon dividing our property. We won't even be able to access the backside of our property. They showed up one day after there's been no moisture forever, took a picture and said, oh, it looks fine, there's no damage. I can tell you we have 4 years of videos and pictures showing you the damage that it causes. The whole point of a stormwater detention pond is to gather the stormwater. It's supposed to be in there for 72 hours. It is supposed to evaporate, it is supposed to absorb, and then what doesn't is discharged at the historic flow in a manner that doesn't damage the property downstream. What this does is it collects all the water, it goes into the pond, and then it immediately discharges through a 30-inch pipe that's aimed straight at our fence line right into our field. It's not a stormwater pond, it's an any water event pond. If we get a half an inch of rain, if we get a skiff of snow, our field is flooded. And our field is so saturated at this point, it cannot absorb any more water. So every little discharge of water is a big deal for us. They have dumped a ton of sediment. We have pictures showing where there is diesel and oil in the pond, and it discharged into our property. That is what we grow the feed on for our cows. That water also goes downhill. It goes into our drinking well. Nobody would do anything about it. It goes down to the neighbors down below us. This is important. We're not a disgruntled neighbor. We are people fighting for our life. This is our family's home. It's going to be our children's home. And they have taken away our property rights by just not doing the right thing. If they would have followed the terms of the annexation agreement and the subdivision improvement agreement, and they would have done these things when they were supposed to do, in the manner that they were supposed to do, we wouldn't be here 4 years later asking for phase 1B and 1C. This subdivision would have already been done. Everybody would have been money ahead if they would have just done it right to start with. And so what we're asking for is either Marion's idea that you table it for now and just don't approve it, or table it and give it time to figure out a solution that works. The engineers may say that it works. I have 3 engineering firms that say it's a terrible design and that it doesn't work. They say they've got a picture that shows that there's no damage. I've got 4 years of pictures that say that there's a lot of damage. It's going to give us time. This got pushed through too fast, and if this happens again, exactly the same thing. Kim touched on the issue about the fence. And that was a topic that was brought up by staff, and they said that it would be addressed in the covenants. Well, there's already homes being built. There's no covenants in place. Apparently, there's no homeowners in place because that's how it's being advertised, and the people that bought lots said that there's no homeowners association. And they built the fence in the no-build easement. And even when we talked to the property owner that's erecting the fence, they said that they talked to BP and got permission. Well, BP doesn't exist and hasn't existed for years, so we know they didn't actually talk to them. They drilled holes and they dug in the ground literally inches away from our irrigation line. If they had gone any farther, they would have damaged the line. The last time the line got damaged, we had to fix it. Everybody said, it's not on me, it's not on me, it's not on me. Something needs to be done. All of these things that we're asking to have done are in the agreement. They were supposed to be done before they started construction. It was all let to go, and it's like everybody said, it just keeps getting put off and put off and put off. Now we've got one home that's up for sale that's got a solid fence that's been sunk in concrete that is inches away from our water line. It's the very first house on the north line. All of those lots have been sold. All the people that are going to build, they're going to line their fence up with the fence that's already there. Not only is it inside of the 8 foot inside of the 40-foot no build, and it specifically says no fences, it's on the wrong side of the property pin as well. So we've got more than one problem there. It's up to the homeowners association to enforce it, but if there's no homeowners association, it falls back on Mr. Jorgensen. He's the majority owner right now. So that's what we're asking. We're asking for you guys to either table this completely, put a hold on it, do something. They're not ready to move on to the next phase. They have a lot of serious issues that need to be addressed, should have been resolved years ago, and we wouldn't be here. So we're asking you just to do the right thing. They signed an agreement. They said they were going to comply. They have not. Somebody's going to have to make them do it. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask a question of staff before you get started? So I'm a little confused. That's easy for me. There was conversation during this presentation about the Campbell lateral. And the Campbell lateral, if I'm looking at these maps correctly, runs through what would essentially be phase 2. Not phase 1A, not phase 1, not phase 1A, not phase 1B. Is that?
It does run through phase 2.
Does go through phase 2.
Yes, the annexation agreement required that the letter of consent, and Kim can probably address this better than I can, that the letter of consent be approved before there was a final plat. So when did the final plat, when was the first final plat? When the Ludwig sold this property and when the annexation agreement was approved, this was one parcel of approximately 35 acres. It was already platted. A final plat has already been submitted and approved without the letter of consent. That's the problem that you're facing right now.
Okay.
So yes, it is technically in what is phase 2, but when the annexation agreement was approved, there were no phases. It was one block of property.
Right.
And I'm saying that we had a discussion with Nicole and the prior town manager about perhaps doing phases. That's interesting because it was an informal community discussion. There were like 5 of us there. But that doesn't count as a letter of consent. That was a neighborhood meeting and nothing was ever done. So the plat occurred when it was divided into phases.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the wording on number 13 of the annexation agreement is the developer shall submit a letter of consent from the Campbell Lateral Ditch Company for the ditch rerouting, new vacant easements, and the associated engineer to design for such rerouting concurrent with the subdivision preliminary plat application. The development of the property will ensure that the water quality of the ditch is protected through design and best management practices. No stormwater will be directed into the irrigation system.
Okay.
So it does not say phase 1, phase 2, or anything like that. It's straight up preliminary plat. And
Got it.
So, and just to let you know, the quality of the water is in question, and I've got pictures that prove it. I also wanted to add to Marion's thing that I forgot to tell you. The Campbell lateral ditch is a small ditch, but where this goes through the property, phase 2, there no crawl fence. If you come up and look at it, it's pushed down. People are climbing over it. People are at the ditch all the time. And we're not just worried about a child falling in. If an adult falls in, they're not coming out alive. It is 25 feet wide. It is 35 feet deep. It is some serious water. There is absolutely nothing keeping people out of there, and people are over there all the time, which is why this was supposed to be addressed at the very beginning before anything was approved and anything was allowed to move forward, and it was not. So those are the things I'm talking about, that we need to actually make sure these things get addressed before they move on any further, because it will be another Dove Ranch. The fence didn't get put up. Now we've got somebody's privacy fence where it's a no-build easement. They put their fence up, they're gonna build the next house. Then the next house, all of those lots are sold. People are gonna start building. We don't have a problem with the subdivision. We have a problem with the family member that sold the property, but we're not trying to stop the subdivision. We just want it done correctly. That is what we're asking for. Comply to what you agreed to do. Thank you.
I'm Evan Cavanis, 99 County Road 526. I just want to share, I found this is from the Zillow listing for the lots in Mustang Crossing, because, I've been in Bayfield since I was 13 years old. I raised 3 kids here, farm here, ranch here. Ours were the cows in question earlier. But this always strikes me when I see these Zillow listings. They are advertising our wonderful town, which I'm very proud to live in, established in the 1800s as a farming and ranching community. Today, Bayfield, blah, 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 blah. This is the vision that we're selling these folks that we're welcoming into our community. And this is a vision that is only possible because of families like the Ludwigs, because of families like the Tones, because of families like mine, families that depend upon this infrastructure. And I'd just like to point out, as everyone has said, the hard work and decisions, it's already been done. Now it's just a matter of adherence. And I like to say, I said this at the last town board meeting, only reason we don't look like Aztec is because of irrigated agriculture. And so if we want to continue to enjoy this beautiful, lush Pine River Valley the way that we know it and love it, I highly encourage us to think not just about this case in point, but future development situations, because the town's going to continue to grow and we welcome that, but we have to do it in such a way that we don't run out of business the families like mine that depend upon this infrastructure. I do want to make a point too. I've been out on the Ludwig's property and seen the stormwater situation in question. And I just can't even tell you. I think there's not an analogy that I can give you other than if every time it rained, your place of business was underwater by a foot. And I don't think any reasonable person who owned a restaurant, who owned a real estate firm, whatever, if you walked into your office every time it rained and there was a foot of water there and you couldn't do your business, you would have a problem. And that's the problem they're facing. And it's truly terrible. So I just want to emphasize, I don't really care what it says on paper if it's in compliance. It is just crazy to go out there. Last thing I will just say too, I really strongly disagree with the assertion that a piping of the stormwater issue, is a moot point because one day that property will be developed. I found that very offensive. And I believe the Ludwigs would find that offensive as well, to assume that these properties that have been in production since the 1800s will also be developed. You are not, I just wanted to say that in solidarity with you guys, that we as families have the right to decide what happens with our properties. And anyways, thanks all. I get really passionate about this stuff because I care about where I live, and I hope you all do too.
Paul Black, 311 County Road 501. I just want to talk a little bit about stormwater and the statute. For a lack of better terms, the statute sucks. What it does is it actually sets the developer up for failure, the town for failure, and the landowners down below for failure. It just, when a developer looks at it to go ahead and design that, they have to look at their property and everything above it for their stormwater, nothing below it. So when they say it's complying, they're complying with that. The town of Bayfield has this issue throughout the whole town. You hear Dove Ranch, you hear all these other places. Essentially, the development is getting further away from the river. So we have no drains for this to get back to the river. That is our #1 issue here in the town of Bayfield. So I kind of ask that the planning commission work with staff to maybe start fixing that issue. The statute doesn't hit it, so the engineers that design it, they don't have to worry about it. I've been on the ditches actually with the town's engineers that review it, looking at the subdivision saying, we don't have to look down below there, we have to look above. So that's something we could work on in the code that says, hey, let's not just look above, let's look below. Let's not affect the people down below. It's a pretty simple thing, I think we can do it. The town is already looking at a central water system for stormwater to start getting that back to the rivers. So let's really work at that and think of that. Even though the state's not requiring that stuff, planning commission here with staff in our code could actually start resolving this issue. The other part of that statute, it talks about historical flows. That's another really sucky part of it, because it talks about the flows, but it doesn't talk about the type of water. The reason we're having this issue is the old stormwater plan for the town says all stormwater will go into the ditches and flow back to the river. That is a false statement. It doesn't work that way. The state has come down to the ditch companies and said, you cannot take that water in your ditch. If you do, you are responsible for it. You're responsible for cleaning it. You're responsible for metering it. You're responsible for getting it back to the river. Thus, we cannot take it in our ditches anymore. We would love to have more water. I would be using it, but the state won't allow us for that. So I just want you guys to think about that as a planning commission, that you can work on the code to maybe start resolving this for future stuff. We have some pretty big scenarios right now that we need to work on and figure out, but as it sits right now, it just puts everybody up to fail. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else? We'll close the public hearing then. Move to item 2C, action on Mustang Crossing Phase 1B and 1C preliminary plan. Discussion.
Yeah, so basically, I guess, again, my simplified view is, part of this issue is, and we go through this a lot in planning, and I haven't been on the planning commission here for a long time, but stuff that was done way back when that probably wasn't even a good idea way back when, got in, and now we deal with the results of that. And for the owners or developers of Mustang Crossing, this is the problem too. Somebody, don't know who, agreed that we're gonna fix all this stuff when it wasn't phased in. Now it's phased in, and now you're stuck because somebody made a commitment to fix everything before you could sell stuff, build stuff to get some money to fix the big problems. And we have this problem all over the town with stormwater. I happen to know that. So this, it's a tough one, but at some point in time, you gotta live with the consequences of what happened before. This is kind of why I asked, are we talking about phase 2? Well, no, but phase 2, phase 1, they all depended on this agreement that was apparently signed a long time ago. So, Bucky, you're the expert on drainage. What the hell are we gonna do with all these places with drainage?
That's the million-dollar question, right? So I agree with Paul that we need to start looking downstream and that we need to amend our code because we can't keep negatively affecting our neighbors. It's been a problem since I've got on the board. And that being said, I think just because the code doesn't say that we have to look downstream, I think we as a planning commission need to look at, is this okay for the surrounding properties? Just because it meets code doesn't mean it's good.
And the mechanics of it, we're trying to get water, back to the river?
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of buildings and stuff between the developable land and the river.
Absolutely.
How the heck do we do that? I'm not an
agree.
engineer, so that's why you're here.
I agree. I don't have an answer for it. Not an engineer either.
But maybe this is something, Derek, we talked about having some, I don't want to call them subcommittees, but sub-discussions about some of the stuff in the land use code,
Oh, yeah.
okay? And maybe this ought to be one that gets thrown in there, so we could sort of beat it up a bit.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
And I don't think it needs to be one of those things where we're gonna make decisions, we're gonna make law, so to speak, but just, can we figure out what the real problems are and list them and then start working on them? I mean, I do this in my business all the time. And I think we need to, as a town and certainly as a planning commission, to tackle this stuff. So that we don't have these problems. We'll still have problems in the future, but we have less of them. How do we get the water back to where it should be? How does that work? What does it go? Full disclosure, I live right adjacent to Mustang Crossing, so I see a lot of this. I don't see any water, okay, other than stuff that we put on the grass. But I can see where there's an issue because it kind of tilts down a little bit. But like I say, I think part of this is the difficulty on this one today is it's including stuff that's not on the agenda for today, but is because of a prior agreement. Did I get that? Am I close? It's about time. Okay, that's all.
We got a subdivision agreement and an annexation agreements, and we gotta get those things, those agreements gotta be met. We can't go forward if those agreements aren't met.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with that 100%. I think it's always this, we deal with it up front, we go through this, we hear all this, we see the engineering, the agreements all look great, but the enforcement piece, we have nothing to do with from this sitting up here.
Right.
So I think this is an opportunity now to go back and make sure those agreements that were put in place 3, 4, 5 years ago, let's get it corrected.
Yeah.
And
the piping of the ditch isn't just keeping other storm water out or poor quality of water. I mean, Marion's completely right. It's to keep the kids out. And all the ditch companies are doing it in every subdivision that's being built.
Right, pipes, yeah.
Yeah, those pipes gotta go in. I know it's a huge expense, but, a life's worth it.
And I'm trying to think of one recently anyway that's not done that first? Like, usually the ditch gets piped with most of the infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening everywhere. You know, it wasn't part, it didn't get that way back when the town started or for a long time, but in the last 20, I'll go 10 to 15 years, it's been done in every suburb.
Well, it's your fault because you've been approving buildings in where there was fields and agriculture before. And I feel sorry for the developer because this stuff's gonna cost a lot of money. If you aren't selling properties and selling houses and getting that, where's that money come from? Boy, somebody better have deep pockets. I sympathize with the developer on this one. And I'm a business owner, so I know it's hard to fix stuff if you don't have the money to fix it. And if you can't sell the product, how do you get the money to fix it? Sorry. I've said enough. So what do you want to do? Bucky, you gonna make this one?
No.
All right.
I'll let you.
I will. I move we take alternative action A, to table the Mustang Crossing Phase 1B and 1C preliminary plan until the applicant demonstrates compliance with the annexation agreement, subdivision improvement agreement, and all applicable land use requirements, and resolves outstanding issues related to drainage, irrigation infrastructure, and adjacent property impacts. Before you second it, let me just say that, to me, this is the best compromise we can give the developer as opposed to denying it. And I don't think at this point we would approve it anyway, but as opposed to denying it, at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel, there's some direction, how to get to the end of the tunnel, and that's sort of why I'm proposing alternate action A.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Derek's got a question.
Okay, is there going to be a time frame? So is this going to be tabled until the next meeting or tabled until we get all the information that we...
I would say we table it until we get, till you and the staff get sufficient compliance with enough that it makes sense to come back to us.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of vague, but you follow where I'm going?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there may be some small items at the end of the tunnel that we could put conditions on and do that, but these are big uns, okay?
Okay.
So if we can get some of the big uns knocked down, then I think we're ready to bring it back. Time frame, not my job.
So indefinitely until we have the proper information.
Amen.
Gotcha.
Did you get all the verbiage on that?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's been recorded.
Oh,
Yeah, we got
shucks.
tape on it.
They can't change it now.
Oh, too late.
Yeah,
Record?
we're good.
All right, so there's my motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Tom, did you second it?
Roll call, please.
Tom seconded, that's right.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes.
We let the Mustang Crossing people.
Yep, if anyone's here from Mustang Crossing,
Take a break.
free to leave, unless you want to hang out.
Are we doing a, what is it called?
Break? Yeah, can we do like a recess? Let's get a bathroom break and a drink.
So,
At the board? For me.
We take a 5-minute
you asked for a
break.
time frame.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna get up. So there's...
What I wrote is Commissioner Tenza says sufficient compliance enough to make them come back in order to
Sarah
untangle
Chu
future development.
reads the bylaws.
Okay. All right, I'm sure it makes sense anyway. I'm trying to do the same thing I did last time. Just like real fast.
Works for me.
Otherwise, I'm gonna head to the house and watch basketball.
You're calling your neighbors.
Well, no, I'm here for the next.
How come they get upset? Because that's part of your
Right, right, I mean, that's all we're doing.
Today. They ran 10, 9, 820 by stairs. They brought 3,000. This must I think my neighbor did the one mark. He was some old hairs, had some old hairs and stuff, and just put them on grass. And then after that, everybody was caught asleep like that. And then everything two cats were for the whole time. And she's all pregnant. And then everybody went, oh, wait a minute. She spoke well.
You better not miss it.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and it's like, but, like I've been doing it, taking them, fattening them, having them slaughtered, setting them out, hanging weight, it's expensive. I can't afford it. Well, no, man, they oh, thanks. Yeah. It's amazing.
Okay, to put.
Yeah, I wished I was too. I gotta go back up here again. I gotta get ready for the next one. Is that where you go? Yes, yeah. That's my house. Throw them in there, it'll be all right. My neighbors are used to it. Chuck, take care, buddy. It's still dark.
Stretches over.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was gonna tell you, good job on making the motion. I appreciate it. I know, but you added to it. Yeah. Right, I get it.
Fine.
Town staff,
What's it? Oh, yeah, right, that's what we're talking about.
Well,
stop talking about, hey, I think we left. Oh, we were talking, that's prohibition.
right.
Okay, that's what we should have.
Right. But when do we have like some time in our schedule, like?
Another day of month where we. Discussion.
Right. Works, yes. Well, how do we do stuff like when we did the agricultural zoning with Nicole? How do
I don't know
we
why
put
that
something together
happened.
like that where we?
I noticed those happening in a workshop or, you know.
Okay. I think that would be good. We got to do something.
Calm down.
Yeah, so I wonder if you took this thing and just hooked up here. Pull this out of the inside.
Maybe we'll do that.
It'd be super easy.
See, everybody thinks the planning is boring, but really, it's a good time. We're having all the fun.
We got.
Alright, we'll go ahead and get started. Cleaned up, so we're good to go. Alright. Item 2D, Pine Valley Heritage Arena Use by Review 2026-02 and Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map Amendment 2026-06 for 60.76 acres located at 601 Dove Ranch Road. Derek.
All right. So what we have the private, hold on. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Derek Slocum, Town Planner. We have the Pine Valley Foursquare Church. They are requesting approval of a use by review to develop a community-oriented agricultural arena and event facility on approximately 61 acres. The proposal includes an indoor arena, a covered outdoor arena, seating, parking, and associated agricultural and community uses. The applicant submitted a rezone application for this property in August of 2025, and the first public hearing was held by the Planning Commission in December of 2025. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezone request by a 4-1 vote. During the rezone process, the applicant clearly outlined what their intended plans for the property was following the approval of the zone change. The application represents, represents the use by review land request for an event center arena. Uses identified in section 4.4 of our land use code as a use by review would permit only upon the approval of the Planning Commission in accordance with procedures of section 311 and are subject to all other applicable regulations of this code. This request, I met with the applicants back in February, and this is kind of a sidebar. Excuse me. But another thing I asked for them to add to this application was an amendment to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan future land use map currently classifies this property as medium density residential. So the change or the amendment is to change it from medium density residential to rural agriculture. Again, that's an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map. Excuse me. This amendment would allow for agricultural and community serving uses consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. The change is necessary because the current designation does not accommodate the property's intended role in supporting agricultural and community-focused based activities such as equestrian uses, agricultural education, and agritourism. Instead, the existing designation anticipates the lower density residential development, which that property was at one time zoned and subdivided for, or platted for, which does not align with the site's physical characteristics, rural context, or long-term viability for agricultural use. So per the land use code, the amendments to the comprehensive plan shall be reviewed using section 313. The Planning Commission's duty is to review and decide whether a proposed amendment is justified, complete, and consistent with the community's long-term planning framework. The Planning Commission must first ensure that the application includes all the required materials, such as the full text of the amendment and a clear narrative explaining its purpose, and that it has been properly reviewed for completeness. That was in your packet. The Planning Commission must test the amendment against the code's review criteria by determining whether it improves implementation of the comprehensive plan's goals and policies, avoids the negative impacts on public facilities and services, and remains compatible with the existing or planned land use patterns, and that it does not hinder the provision of services. This was sent out to agencies, the various agencies for their comments. Those comments are in your packet. It was reviewed by SGM Engineering. Well, I got comments back from SGM Engineering, La Plata County Public Health Department, La Plata Electric Association, the Upper Pine River Fire Protection District, and the Colorado Geological Survey. I'm still waiting for the county's traffic review. So they currently have the traffic plan and are reviewing it. I did call back Aaron today. We're playing a little bit of phone tag, but I have not quite yet received his comments on this as of right now. So based upon the information available at the time the staff report was completed, staff does recommend to the Planning Commission that the use by review for an event center and arena and the comprehensive plan amendment changing the subject property's future land use designation from medium density to residential to rural agriculture be approved, subject to the 14 conditions that are found on page 8 of your staff report. My recommendation is based on the findings also on page 8 through page 10. Possible motions have been made to alternative action A, approve, plus conditions, B, to deny, C, to table, and your attachments as what was in your packet. Again, those are the 14 conditions that I recommended. As staff, they can always be added to or reduced. That's up to the Planning Commission's discretion. So at this time, I could answer any questions you may have. We have a couple presentations, it looks like, from the applicants as well. So if you'd like to wait until after that, we can do that as well.
I guess just one question. Are you attempting to give the Planning Commission the most pages in packets in world history, or does it just have to be that way?
No, ask the mayor. Oh, I kind of did that last board trustees meeting.
This is short.
Oh.
Okay.
We are almost 800 pages our last one.
Can you read them all?
All right.
Okay.
Mike, okay, I got that question. I got that question from some new trustees. Mike, listen, read the staff report. No, this, okay. Yeah, I sent that email to you.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you for entertaining all of this and just the opportunity to present this. My name is Scott Kuyeth. I don't know if you need my address. I live in Bayfield, but not within 3 miles. So live a little further out. But I pastor Pine Valley Church, and I've presented in here, so I'm not going to take the time to give you all of that in terms of history, and I'll save most of our time for the other people that are helping me put this project together that have some great visuals for you to understand the whole thing. Really, the heart behind this whole project it started probably over 20 plus years ago, and again, you know that who I am, what I do, and so in my own faith journey. God gave me he gave me a picture and a word with the picture. The picture was an indoor rodeo arena. The word was redeeming our heritage. I laughed as a pastor. I laughed at God because I'm not a cowboy. This just doesn't fit my ball of wax, and I did nothing with it for 15 years plus. The aforementioned wonderful subdivision of Dove Ranch walked through their issues and their troubles. The developer went bankrupt, and we were able to purchase the adjacent 75 or so acres to the east of the church. About a year after we purchased that, this whole picture and dream got dropped back into my heart. And so I said, all right, Lord, I'll walk whatever steps and doors you open, and we'll take them. And so here we are, and walking through this process. It's been pretty amazing. But I think probably the most important thing that I would want to share with you is the heart of the church, and doesn't change from who we are now to what this proposed arena is, and that is to be a blessing to our community and to our kids. And I know what that word blessing is it's got a different definition to different people, but I can only answer it for me and what we're doing. And there's a lot of housing developments going in, and there's some proposed ones. You know, if you talk to the Plata County realtors and you listen to them, most of the growth is coming our direction. At least that's what I'm hearing. I'm not in your meeting, so I don't know. But there's a lot of that stuff going on, and there is in this. I've been in Bayfield. This will be 25 years. I was born and raised in Durango, and I've been in Bayfield for 25 years now. And there's not a lot for our kids in our community other than what we already have, and we got a lot of growth coming. And you got the church coming in and saying, "Hey, we want to bless our community. We want to come and do whatever we can to come alongside and see this heritage that I think it was Mrs. Cavanis earlier talked about. One of the things that they were selling about this Bayfield community is our heritage, our culture, who we are, and that's exactly what this project is. It's really all about. It's about how do how do we redeem how do we pass this heritage of who we are from generation to generation? We all know Durango is, it's sold as a cowboy town, and they're pushing all of it out. They're pushing it out. And that's who we are. It's where this area, who we've been, it's the salt and light of who this community is our farming, cowboy, ranching community. And we're trying to come in alongside the town of Bayfield and do something that will be a blessing to our community and our kids, but it'll also be something that's going to be an economic difference maker for this community. There's a verse that God gave me out of Joel 3:18. It was a promise early on in this project, and that the verse paraphrase says, "Out of the house of the Lord, He's going to water the valley." And that the picture there is that God wants, He's going to use this whole project to bless this entire, and that doesn't mean just people that agree with what I believe. That means everyone. And I really think the economic impact of what we're getting ready to propose to you is probably greater than any of us could actually really fully understand. But we're here to see the heritage and the legacy of who we are, and watch that just pass from generation to generation. We live in a community that has some of the world's best cowboys. We just had a rider from Ignacio, a bull rider from Ignacio. He was in the PBR or NFR in Las Vegas, and just as a rookie, and just knocked it out of the park. We've got other kids that are in this community that are winning national championships, state championships, and how cool would it be for our community to have something? I've been a coach for 20 plus years out here, and I just love the idea of being able to, so people either know me as a pastor or they know me as a coach. And I love the idea of being able to have something for our community that would be where we could invest that out of Southwest Colorado, we could see the best in the state, best in the country, whether that's our 4-H kids, whether that's our rodeo kids, and just everything else that comes out of that. And so that's the heart. We are in this as a church. Our heart as a church is to be a blessing to Bayfield and beyond. And we've tried to model that in who and we're not changing who we are as we move forward. It's all part of the same piece. I'm gonna step back. I could give you a lot more of the history and the heart behind it and how different things have happened. But I'm gonna let the professionals speak and let them kind of show you where we're at with the project. I think you're going to be pretty blown away at just what we are presenting to bring into the town of Bayfield, and the town of Bayfield will be the recipient of the blessing side. I do want to address real quick, and they may get into it. There's a lot of questions about tax. You're a church. You don't pay taxes. You don't, and you're correct. We don't pay property tax. The arena itself wouldn't pay property tax, but every construction company that comes and works, they do. Everyone that would come, even as a nonprofit, if you hold large events that are profit making, you pay taxes on those. So you can be a nonprofit and still have tax generated events that happen. And so when we hold big events, those would be tax generated just from what we're doing, not to mention all the other economic impact that's going to happen that people that know more than I know will want to tell you. I am happy to answer any question that you might have, and so you can just call me back up if you have a specific question for me. But the people that know a whole lot more than I do are going to answer all the detailed questions in that list of 14 pieces that they have there for you. And which, by the way, we don't have any problem with the 14 requirements. I think we're willing to address all that.
Good evening. I'm Ann Christensen. I'm with DHM Design. We're land planners, landscape architects, 1309 East 3rd Avenue in Durango. So I'm going to introduce the team and then I'll give a little overview. We've got a visual presentation just to give a lot more detail and shape that we've been working on for what we're actually proposing as part of this arena for Scott. So with the team here, DHM is kind of leading the site design effort. We have Jacob Nestor, who's a project manager and construction manager with us. Next to him is Riley and Chris, who are civil engineers looking at traffic and drainage and utilities as part of this overall grading plan. And then we have Lauren Davis, who's the architect, and she's going to be showing some floor plans and renderings of the interior of the facility as part of this presentation. So flip to the next slide. So, see. Great. All right, so overview, and I'll try to keep it moving because I know you're having a long night tonight, but want to get into the visuals. And so I'm going to go through quickly the mission and goals are also on the website, and Scott gave you kind of the introduction, so I'll go through those quickly, but just want to show where we are in the timeline, and then the review process, where we are in the review process as well, and then a tour around the existing conditions, talk about the type of activities that we are planning this facility to host, and then give a tour of the site plan as designed to date, and then walk through those floor plans and architectural drawings. And then we know that this is a big change for the neighbors, and we want to talk about those potential impacts on neighbors and how we are looking to mitigate those. And then a little bit about the economic and market kind of impact of this project. So, yep, just to locate where we are there. So right off of 501, Pine Valley Church on the west side, and then the acres kind of stretching out to the east. And you can flip to the next slide. Oh, before we leave this one, just noting that Dove Ranch is directly to the south of the property, and then to the north is some residential on the west side, and then there's this state land board that Pine Valley has easements for recreational use and trail access. All right, and then this is just one of the first artist renderings that's looking eastward and a little northeastward of the overall concept. So we'll be coming back to this, but just wanted to kind of show how this sets on the land, and we've looked really carefully from both a functional and kind of visual aspect of how to best site this kind of arena and supporting site infrastructure. Spend a lot of time right-sizing it and fitting it to the site. So we can go to the next slide. Don't want to repeat Scott, but just that this is very much about preserving heritage, and DHM also helped the county with planning for the multi-event center when that was intended to go up in Ewing Mesa. That's now Durango Mesa. And the county decided to go in another direction. And that just gave me kind of years of history of the old timers and folks that have put a lot of effort in knowing that the current La Plata County Fairgrounds is really past capacity. And there's a lot of opportunity and need and interest in a fairgrounds and arena type facility, in addition to keeping the current one. And that whole study that was done showed the immense need and desire for a facility like this. And having it be able to move forward in more of a private fashion is, I think, can expedite that moving forward finally after years of kind of study, and kind of free that design to meet the current needs. So you can go ahead and skip past this one. And then really just the priorities of this is that it's high-performing arena, having the details right. We've learned a lot working with the community about how important the details down to the footing and how everything flows and functions is, and then having that translate into a user experience that people want to come here, that it's known for high performance and an exciting experience both for locals and visitors. This is for the community, and then doing that with high level of consideration to sustainable design, responsible design that's for the long term. That includes water efficiency, energy efficiency, kind of the right kind of building techniques to be responsible going into the future and setting this up for success. And then also being able to accommodate kind of new trends, technology and such, having some flexibility built into it too. And then where are we on the timeline? So the design phase, we did quite a bit of the preliminary design in 2025, sort of starting in the beginning of 2025. Then started the review process last fall with the applications for the zoning change. After all this process, like assuming that we advance successfully, the next steps would be going into construction after the review process is complete and all the permitting is complete. So that would be the start of groundbreaking. We're also doing fundraising kind of currently and into the future. And then that construction breaks in, it's a large project and it would break into different sequential steps, including the earthwork, building the vertical construction, finishing off the site and landscaping before the final opening and ribbon cutting. So those are kind of the steps that's spanning, several months at least. So, and then this is the zoning map with the yellow area is showing this property. And in the fall, we had a public meeting. We had an introduction at the church in the spring with the preliminary design. And then we had another public meeting that we held just with the community, open house. That was in November, and then hearings and presentations with Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees in December for that updated zoning to the agricultural use. And now we're looking at the map amendment that Derek described, and then you can flip to the next page. And we're currently in this use by review, so repeating you a little bit, but trying to keep it moving. So some of the kind of key comments that we are hearing along the way in support is that this property is suitable for this type of agricultural use, that it's a benefit to the community. The zoning plan before was for another phase of Dove Ranch, would be at least 300 new home sites. And so that's quite a bit of infrastructure that would have required too. And this solution has the opportunity to save more open space and have those connections to the public lands. So then we're in the middle of some of the agency coordination. As Derek described, this went out to a number of different agencies. So there's a CDOT meeting that's coming up next week that our engineers are leading the charge on that just to look closely. We understand that a traffic study is important on how traffic flows in and out of this and the impacts on the adjacent intersections and county roads. County Road and Bridge will be involved as well. And then there'll be continued refinement on the drainage and grading plans, which have been progressed pretty far. We understand that that'll just continue to need a little bit more study. And then in the next steps, as part of that, we'll have the hearings, and then there's the requirement within the 14 steps for a final site plan, which we're happy to provide, and then the permitting associated with that. So going to the next slide. So now I'm just going to kind of give an overview of the lay of the land, and again looking at the existing view, and this is looking westward across the site, and you can see where the trees have been cleared. That's the more sort of developable flatter portions of the site, and where the vegetation remains, it starts to get steeper. There's quite a bit of topography on a large portion of the site. And then the next slide just goes in where the arena building is proposed to be within that site. So it's kind of tucked on the northern portion of the flatter portion of the site, sort of central, and then the parking and layers of some landscape buffers and drainage corridors would be between the Dove Ranch site, the Dove Ranch homes, and the arena itself. So another view on the next slide, please. Thanks. So this is looking back the other way towards the southeast. And you can go ahead and flip to the next one that shows the ghosted building again. So that's kind of looking over the Pine Valley Church current location, and then the gray ghosted building is where we're proposing the arena would sit within that larger site. Okay, so we can keep going. And then what is the proposed activities here? And the real emphasis, the kind of heart and soul of this is the arena and equestrian type activities, 4-H kind of on a day-to-day basis, all kinds of youth programs, rodeo, team roping. Can go to the next slide. And then in addition to that, in addition with this agricultural focus, also having the ability to have some flexible use for all kinds of gatherings, weddings, different church events, different community events. Clubs can rent this out. I can tell you that meeting space is really at a premium in this whole area. And so it provides somewhere that besides the actual arena, we've designed in meeting rooms that can be used kind of day to day just to accommodate a variety of different community benefits. Okay. And then this is the proposed site plan view, and then I'll have a few more renderings to show that help visualize it, but just to walk through this. So on the left, coming from County Road 501 would be a major entry road. What's not shown, but we will definitely include, is access to the existing residence to the north. That'll be part of that. And then parking lots that sort of wrap that sort of small box in the top left corner by the arena is a vintage barn. They have the current barn that would be rebuilt in some form as a little more pedestrian focused icon to invite you in and give it some pedestrian scale as you arrive at the larger arena. And then the drives are all designed to accommodate really good flow through for events. That's something we heard over and over again at the La Plata County Fairgrounds, is the importance of big turning radiuses, accommodating trailers, accommodating large vehicles to be able to not have to back up any more than they have to and be able to flow through for unloading hogs or unloading riders and cattle, and doing that in a contained way and as much as possible keeping that flow through. And then the parking lots as well are designed to be a lot of double bays. So they can be managed in different ways, where they can have larger vehicles, higher numbers of single passenger vehicles. So a flexible kind of parking design that's really looking carefully at circulation and how that functions. And then the last kind of wrapped tier of parking is really kind of just for larger events. So those parking lots around the perimeter and closest to Dove Ranch would be vacant most of the time, day to day, and then in the summer season on weekends is when we anticipate more larger events coming periodically. And then just back to that rendering again, so you can kind of see how you would come in from 501. The access connections to Dove Ranch would all be gated and closed and only for emergency access. So they're not circulation routes, they're just for emergency access. Let's see, you can keep going. So, and then as part of this too, we've got preliminary drainage plan. The drainage plan has some complexity. We've heard about that in the last presentation, the importance of handling your flows and how then it's released to historic rates. And so a lot of these ponds that you see up to the northeast are holding and then slowly releasing flow to offset the increased flows that comes off of the more higher level impervious surfaces. And so the building, of course, is a impervious surface that'll generate some runoff, and then intentionally planning on gravel drives because they can absorb more water. They don't infiltrate at the rate of the natural soil, so we still have a drainage plan that then moves all that drainage around the property, and then noting on the south that it's aimed to help those Dove Ranch properties that have some inconsistent grading behind them now, and the flow would go to the swales that are part of this project and move that along and help resolve some of that problem that exists today. All right, and then and our engineers are here, and we anticipate may have some questions for them either tonight or in the future. We're happy to get into that further. So a few more renderings, and then Lauren's going to come describe some of the interior. So these are just views around the exterior of the site. So this is on that north side that when you first approach the building and you're going to ticketing and arriving at an event. Okay. Oh, no problem. Couple more exterior views. And then we'll flip to Lauren's presentation, and then we'll come back to this one. That's all right.
Now you've done it. You know, it used to be you just lift a paper page up.
I know, I was just having flashbacks to the old slide carousels, and the slides would get stuck. That was an adventure too. Okay, this works fine. We're good. Just have a couple more of these left. Yeah, so this is the north side, just kind of having enough space out there that this could also have event tents, like if you have a farmer's market or gem and mineral show or something like that, that it has room for those 10 by 10 tents. While he's dinking around with that, which no, I'm glad it's not me. I'm going to talk a little bit about the other events, because that's later in the presentation. Yeah, you want to close that and maybe just flip to Lauren's presentation? Yeah, if that works. We're overwhelming the machine with high resolution imagery, I think.
Didn't I overhear somewhere that Pastor Scott was going to have a Lady Gaga concert?
Glitter and disco, yeah. Okay, here we go. So this is another arrival view where just the natural grade, when you come to the site, it does rise in grade, and so it creates an opportunity to create sort of a hangout space as you move from the parking lot towards the entry, and so that can be sort of a place to be as well as your entry path into the building. And then on the left is that idea of the historic barn being like a place for weddings and smaller gatherings. That's another view from the other side where there's room for more of outdoor amphitheater type seating on the other side of the barn with views of the mountains beyond. Okay, so now if it's not too tough on your machine, we got the other presentation.
Hey, Jeremy, if that was a road, would it be easier for you? If it was a road, not a computer, would it be easier for you? Yeah, well, I'd have a map, that's right.
Yep, I think it's on that USB. Good evening, Lauren Davis with Reynolds Ash and Associates, and I live in Durango, Colorado, 153 Saltbrush Street. So I want to speak to the floor plans, go through program, talk about scale and some of the design standards. Yep, that's the one. So this is a 95,000 square foot footprint. That's the enclosed part of the arena and the main conditioned space. There is to the right another 40,000 square foot for just an open covered arena. And as Ann said, the main part of this program is the arena itself. And our team, we've worked with specialty consultants. We've really studied different options in terms of what works best with rodeo layouts, team roping, et cetera. And our layout has a 28,000 square foot arena, and that is that main center area. That's the enclosed area where the contestants, the horses, they're actually doing their events. That's that center part of this building. And actually everything else that's white, that's dedicated to everything related to those events. So that has all the bucking chutes, the gates, the pens, et cetera. That obviously we have circulation for the animals and the riders. But that's almost half of that footprint, and that is the focus of this project. We certainly could have gone bigger, but this is the minimum size to meet some of those sanctioned events. So obviously, we want to host PBR events, we want to host team roping events, et cetera. That's the goal. We want this to be a contemporary, high-end facility that can attract those kinds of events. And be a fun spot for the community. Everything else related to this really serves that function. So the other big part of this is that we are accommodating 2,000 seats for spectators. So it's really the arena, those 2,000 seats, and then everything else is restrooms, is concessions, service spaces, right, mechanical, electrical rooms. That's really the focal of that rectangle. And then in addition to that, obviously, there's other programming that supports that as well. So we have included that lower part of the floor plan that's pink and purple. That's the exhibit hall and a kitchen. So obviously, with an event like this, we want this to be a community space. We want this to host a variety of activities. That exhibit hall will be critical in providing some additional vendor space, food area, food hall, type spaces. You could have additional events with the community, a craft fair, et cetera. All of those, again, support the main function of the building. But we've really studied this. We've tried to tighten it up. We've carved out some of the fat. But this is the main part of the building, is this main level footprint, this 95,000 square feet. Next slide. Then we have a mezzanine. And that mezzanine obviously is an extension of the arena. So all of the bleachers and the chair backs extend up to that mezzanine level. So we have some additional boxes, some VIP seating. Obviously, we're going to have AV booths and announcer booths, et cetera. So that is part of this program in green that you're seeing highlighted. And again, that exhibit hall space that lines the south side of this building, there's a second floor to that. So again, that provides some additional opportunities for office, conference space, meeting rooms. Again, those can be shared by the community for different groups, et cetera. And that's about 20,000 square feet on the mezzanine level. Next slide. So there's obviously opportunities here. If there's not a rodeo event, we believe we can also accommodate some additional uses. And these are other opportunities that make this a multi-use space. There's needs for basketball games, volleyball games, practices, right? All of that can be accommodated here. And again, it can be sort of a shared space for Bayfield. So this shows what a potential basketball court could look like in that main arena area. Next slide. This shows a potential small concert that could be held in there. And again, you could have different events happening. You could have, some community event could be hosting a meeting while there's a basketball game going on or a practice, et cetera. Next slide. Trade shows, event booths. Again, we see that there's a need for this, as Ann mentioned. This shows a potential layout for different booths and how this could be utilized. Next slide. And then I wanted to comment on just the overall scale and size of this. So this is a prefab metal building, but we want to dress it up, right? We don't just want it to be 4 blank walls. Obviously, we want this to be attractive. We want to meet best practices. We want to carve this up a little bit to break up the scale and the perceived sort of height and width of this. So we've done that in a few different ways. Obviously, we're utilizing the site. So if you recall, Ann mentioned, how we're sort of nestling this into the topography. We're cutting this into the hill. That's one way that we're mitigating the scale of the building. But we're also adding architectural elements. So we're breaking up the entry. We're highlighting it with with areas of glass, with signage. We're accenting those with those portals. I think that shows from the highway, we're addressing sort of the public face of this building on the west and the south side. And we're also utilizing a mix of materials. So we're using contextual materials, rusted metal, wood, lap siding. We have a metal roof on this as well. So again, those are materials that fit in. I think it's appropriate for Bayfield and appropriate for this facility. And again, all of this, we're sort of mitigating it and layering it with landscaping, with additional vegetation. But again, dressing up the south side facing Dove Ranch and the west side that faces the highway. And then these are some interior renderings. Again, we wanted to bring it to life. This is the main entry. Again, you could come into this sort of foyer, this community space. You can have ticketing. This is sort of a gathering area before you enter the lobby or the main arena. Next slide. This is the concourse. So this would be the area just to the south of the main arena. We'll have concessions, restrooms, etc. This is sort of that transition space between the exhibit hall and the arena. But again, we feel like that can be a fun, engaging space. Next slide. This shows a potential view of the arena. Again, the main dirt floor, that 28,000 square feet that I talked about, with seating on the right and some of the announcer booths, additional bucking chutes and pens to the left. Next slide. This is the exhibit hall. So again, a lot of opportunities here in how we can utilize this space. This shows maybe a 4-H event, but you can imagine a number of different uses here for the community related to the rodeo, but it could be additional uses and groups as well. Next slide. And this shows that area to the right of the floor plan. So this is facing east. This is kind of facing the hillside, but this is that open covered arena. So again, you can have a warm-up area. You can have additional holding pens. There could be some other ways to program this space. But again, it's an important amenity for a facility of this nature. I think that's it. Thank you.
We owe you big time handling all these big files. So appreciate it. I'd like to flip back to the other presentation slides. All right. So a couple other items, and then we'll be wrapping up the presentation. One is just looking at views from the Dove Ranch homes, and then the other is a little bit about the market study. So, and then that market study, in the market study completed for the La Plata County Multi-Event Center up on Ewing Mesa, that was done almost 10 years ago by RPI as part of the master planning for that, and I just pulled over kind of relevant information that I want to convey because it relates to this project. So, yep, that's the one. Okay, so if you keep just rolling through, that's it. Thank you. Yep, that's it. So this is a cross section. So on the right side, this is looking eastward, and on the right side is we took a section from a Dove Ranch home showing a 2-story home in that location, and then following the grading and the scaled size of the building. This is all kind of correctly scaled and showing kind of view shed lines. So if it were another phase of Dove Ranch, then you would have a line of homes kind of immediately north of the existing homes. With this, we are locating that arena farther north, so there's some mitigation of the scale of that building just in horizontal distance, and then the topography helps, and then a couple bands of landscape. And just knowing that landscape takes a while to grow, but over time, you can have some pretty full vegetation in there, and the plan is to irrigate that vegetation and harvest some of that stormwater drainage to help that vegetation grow. And then on the next slide, this is just, we've got that 3D model that you saw, the different aerial views of the project. So we set up a view using that model, factoring in the correct topography, and then layering in trees at about 5 years maturity. So it's standing in a backyard, including fence on the property line, and then looking towards the arena. So with that distance, it does really help. You still will see this building. It'll be in the distance. Some of the hills are taller, some dip below, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of the kind of massing that you would see. And then just to wrap up, conveying some of that information that we learned on the market study. So first, go ahead and flip to the next slide, please. So first is just that we already have a community that's very horse-centered in this area. So, and these numbers are even almost 9 years old, but within 2-hour drive, between 4,000 and 12,000 participants with horses here, and then within 4 hours, tens of thousands of people in that community. And so the organizations that we heard from in that La Plata County Master Planning, a lot of hunter jumper, cutting and reining, pony clubs, rodeos, team roping, fiesta days, many different groups of all ages, even polo cross, looking for space. Next slide. And then there's this interest in circuits, because some of the rodeos have a qualifying point system where you need to collect points. And so when you're on a road trip going across the country to collect your points, this is sort of a missing spot between California and Arizona and Florida, where people would like to stop. They're driving through. If they could pick up points, it sort of has a need for providing another event within these different rodeo tours and also hunter jumper clubs. Next slide, please. And this is just showing where that 2 and 4 hour drive. So it's kind of reaching down to Albuquerque is within 4 hours. You're getting up to Montrose, Ridgeway, Pagosa Springs, large horse and ag related community in this region looking for this. Okay, next slide. And then this is just trends in expos. Like the number of trade shows and expos has been going up. There's more and more of them, and the fairgrounds is booked completely. Like the Home and Ranch Show, the Gem and Mineral Show, they use every square inch. They have to turn people away, and their calendar is completely full. They have no more room. So, and they get a lot of calls. They're not even marketing at all. So I just thought that was important to show that there is real demand noted in the research in this region. And the dip you see is for COVID. The original studies were before COVID, but then it's picked back up, and then you have into the future because those are already booked. So that's real data for future bookings of expos. That's just going up and up. Car shows, you name it. All right, next slide, please. And then this is just what's currently happening at the La Plata County Fairgrounds. This photo is one I took at the Gem and Mineral Show, one of my favorites. But this whole list, I'm not going to read it all. You guys can read it. But everything from ski swaps to different clubs. Home and Ranch Show is a hugely popular one. kennel club. So there's a lot of opportunity. Next slide, please. And then another aspect that is looking for space, and there isn't a whole lot of space, is educational fairs and competitions. So that's everything from those Lego groups to Destination Imagination. They use Fort Lewis, but they're really short on places that they can host things like Botanic Society conferences and workshops, different sort of craft businesses, all kinds of food-related crafts and businesses, goat milk, that kind of fair. So opportunity there too. Next slide. And then just, this one was really that lack of meeting rooms. All the meeting rooms in the area are totally booked, and it's hard for people like Rotary Club to find a space to use. So opportunity with that. We can go to the next slide. And this is just the summary of what was happening. This is back in 2017, what was happening at the fairgrounds and how full that they are. And what we heard is they need larger facilities. They're not big enough. They don't have enough space. The capacity is really reached by most of those weekend events. They can't even rent out all the tents they would like to. And the availability is really challenging. So next slide. And then last, going back up one, please. Thank you. So, yeah, doing awesome. So last couple of slides is just about what do we mean by the community economic impact of this. And there's kind of tiers of spending that comes in. Of course, there's the tourist dollars, and then that turns into visitors staying in lodging, eating at the restaurants, going to the local retail shops and supporting all those businesses. There's also just the menu of recreation enhanced in the area, people that are interested in this lifestyle moving here, aspects of the kind of farmers market and ag community, shaping the kind of culture of this area. It adds another regional attraction to the other attractions that we have. And then it just creates some jobs. And another thing with these kind of facilities is that they can provide an emergency response hub, not just for people, but for animals. Like when there's a large fire or flood or something like that, it can take people's livestock in a facility like that. Next slide. And then it just, the spending kind of comes back. So there's that direct spending that happens, like purchases there, but then there's indirect, such as feed, supplies, gas, food, and then when someone working there spends money, it kind of keeps circulating within your own community. So there's many layers of economic benefit from a facility like this. Next slide. Yeah, so beyond, this is just a little example. So beyond just ticket sales, when there's in a very conservative case study, if there's a 3-day equestrian event that is not even filling the whole place, because we've got a couple thousand seats, but say it's 300 to 800 spectators, there's about $500,000 in spending in the community, and that multiplies into a total impact of $1 million of related secondary spending in the area. So that all contributes to the tax base and it circulates within the community. So that's it. Thanks for bearing with a lengthy presentation, but we really want to describe what we're proposing. So. Happy to answer any questions today. We know this is like drinking from a fire hose. We have those follow-up 14 items that Derek had noted. We anticipate coming back when you would like us to, but anything that you want to address today or want us to do more study, we're here to listen.
One question that you mentioned early on, and phasing of how the whole project's put together. Do you have an initial phasing plan of?
Yeah,
how that
this,
would come
this is
together and-
actually the first phase, and the tricky part is that the major events, like team roping, require extensive space to operate and parking. So the future phases that we're not showing, there could be some additional expansion of the facility itself, and there could be some development further east on the site. It gets steeper, but there's some potential to add some sort of satellite elements in that direction. But the idea is that this is really the first phase. It's like a large first phase, but it would come online altogether.
Thank you.
So, talk about phasing, and I'm really looking at construction phasing. So you're here, we saw you in August, I think it was.
Yep.
Okay, so assuming something happens that we say, yeah, it's a good idea, you start working through it, what's the, and it doesn't have to be specific, but a general timeline. I mean, I gotta believe this is gonna take 3, 4, 5 years to come to fruition. Am I wrong?
I think at least 18 months to 2 years. So you'd start with overlap grading, trenching and infrastructure, all those kind of electric, water connections, all that. Grading is a big one. That alone is probably 6 months or so. But then most of that site is parking lots, which is pretty straightforward in the grading world. You're using D10s or whatever, like large equipment, but like that would be kind of handled. And then you're really focusing on the facility itself after those phases. So that's probably 8 months in. I'm kind of shooting from the hip, and Jacob.
He's nodding his head back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few large projects in the decades. But then the vertical piece, that has a combination, and Laura could speak to this, but it's like partially prefab and partially stick-built. You'd have a general contract kind of overseeing everything, but probably 20 different subs coming in. But the building itself, you kind of foundations, core and shell framing, and then all the systems, and then kind of finishing, and then the last thing is bringing in bleachers and all those, like the pens and stalls and all that. It's more flexible.
Pretty aggressive timeline though, isn't it?
Couple years?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, and it's just a large scale, but there's an economy to scale as well. So, I mean, 2 years is probably on the short end, but, I mean, it partly depends on kind of funding and the capabilities of the general and the subs. Like Durango area, Bayfield area, it's a little tougher to get
Contractor.
yeah, exactly, for a scale of this. And so a single contractor can slow something down, so it's gonna take some planning. We've also heard a lot of excitement in the contractor realm, like everyone is super excited about this. So I think just the fact that it's a cool, popular project could help attract a high-profile local contractor to take it very seriously, so.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and it's a little different, like housing, like Three Springs has taken a long time to build because you've got to have the absorption of those homes. So taking down more than 5, 10 homes at a time has an inherent risk to it, where this is kind of all just higher scale, and it may include some out-of-town, some balance of some in-town and out-of-town to be able to tackle some of those specific type things, like, but I'm speaking in Lauren's realm, in some of the prefab, the building components.
Just
but-
looking for the big, kind
Yeah.
of big picture kind of thing, so.
At least a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
So, most of our issues with our drainage come during, like, the site grading phase, where you go in and you're stripping off the land, trees and grass and
Yeah.
vegetation.
Yep.
And that's when we have all these big flows of water
Yeah.
that are impacting the surrounding neighborhoods. Are you?
Yeah, the stormwater stormwater management plan would be part of the permitting requirement, which is specific.
No, the plans are always good, except for the beginning part of it, where the vegetation goes back into the ditches and the ponds.
Yep,
et cetera.
yep.
Is there some way you can help mitigate some of that? Like runoff when it's bare ground and the water's flowing all over?
Yes, there's,
I mean, I know you're,
Yeah.
some of the work your engineers do, I know what they're doing with
Yeah.
stormwater, and I know it works at the end, but
yeah.
Well, I'm not the engineer by any means, but one of the reasons we put the building where it is, because all of that land has already been pre-stripped. So Dove Ranch stripped all that land previously, so. Yeah, yeah, and so they can talk to that, but we're not really, yeah, I mean, obviously you're moving dirt, but that, one of the reasons we are located the building where it's at is because of, that was already pre-stripped.
Just one quick point. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm lazy. I wanted to be the bad guy in the corner. Okay, so.
You do so much better up there.
Yeah, okay, I'm Chris, I'm the community bad guy. I live over by the elementary school. I work for Set Engineering. I've done most of the drainage work on this. We still have a lot to do, but they just wanted to get in there and prove that it would work and work well, that it's possible. We have got that far. There are some things that I'd like to do to make adjustments to make it a little easier, but it works. So the comment that I had about that is, I think the first thing that you would do, I'm not in charge of means and methods, but the first thing that I would do is go in and just construct haul roads, and then you could go up into the upper part and go ahead and start building ponds. So you could build the bottom pond and the upper ponds before you start doing mass grading. That could accommodate quite a bit of that, because you don't have to go in and strip out all the trees and brush and everything to build these ponds. And the reason that would help so much is because we have a couple of very large basins to the east that are currently failing to discharge to the right-of-way. They're discharging into Dove Ranch, and the intent is to take all of that and reroute it, detain almost all of that for those basins, and then the west basins will be released to the right-of-way. So if you did that, you're already detaining 150 CFS that was already going into Dove Ranch. So hopefully you can make up the difference before you even got started with mass grading and stripping.
And the advantage of your gravel driveways is it's not asphalt or concrete, which is going to shed water. I don't know how you stripe it. That's a whole other story. What? Okay.
We're good.
Now, open up the public hearing. I would ask, there's a lot of people here. Try not to repeat too much comment if we can. Give everybody the opportunity to speak.
Lucy Stewart, am I missing something, but is there two roads to this place or only one road?
One main
Don't you have to have?
One main road with emergency access.
Can I interrupt real fast?
Yeah.
To kind of move this forward.
Ask questions, and we'll answer them all at the end.
Yeah, I will write down your questions, and so yeah, come ask questions, of course, and then at the end, I'll have the questions, and we'll have the applicants address those questions.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't see that there was two roads to that property.
Yeah.
Hi, I'll be real quick. Marion Tone, 1495 County Road 526. Before I moved down into town, or next to town, I lived up at Vicedo. And I know that part of the history of where I was up on the old Decker property up there, we've had maps and photos and stuff in some of the historic books of the rodeos that used to happen up there, where all the community would come and just basically frame the area with their buggies or cars. I can't remember what the time frame was, And I just think this is such an important part of our community's heritage and stuff, so I really applaud the work they've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Black, 311 County Road 501. Just want to speak. I was involved with a lot of the county fairground stuff, watching that for years and years. My in-laws live up on Ewing Mesa and started that a process. My kids currently go to the fairgrounds in Durango, and it's kind of been interesting seeing all that get phased out. So I'm really appreciative to the church to kind of bring this vision to Bayfield. I think it's a huge opportunity for the town. I think it could be a lot of economical benefits. Just think it could be an awesome project. Really appreciate them doing it.
Thank you. Okay. Wow. Nobody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Yeah, I can do that. There's only one question that was from Lucy. Yeah.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Move to action. 2D, action on Pine Valley Heritage Arena use by review and comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment. Comments from commissioners?
So, Derek, here's my, I pre-warned him this was coming, in all fairness. I asked you to calculate how many more homes, including apartments, condos, et cetera, will be added to Bayfield if and when the following projects get completed according to their plan, if you will. And that was Clover Meadows Phase 8, which we approved a couple of months ago. Pine River Commons, that continues to grow. Mustang Crossing, Phase 1, 1A, 1B, and 2, assuming it ever moves forward. And I call it the McCoy Project, which is kind of like in the middle of Bayfield. We kind of know where it is, but I know it's got mixed use and all kinds of stuff. What'd you come up with for a number on that one?
So for units, I have for Clover, you're around 59. Pine River Commons, and from what I saw, it was 68. The Mustang Crossing, I'm at 81. I added the Ironton one as well.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's
Okay.
22.
Okay.
And then the McCoy, you're looking around 72. So total, you're at around 300, 302.
So 300 new residences, which then the question comes, where are these people going to go to recreate, so to speak? What's the status of the Joe Stevenson Park addition that was talked about in 2023 with an $18 million price tag?
Well, we don't have any funding, so.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
Until we some other plans.
Except before or after we fix the roads?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that, which would have sort of been available to the residents, is kind of not really gonna come to fruition very soon. And so here we have the opportunity to do a couple of, in my opinion, a couple of things. One, we eliminate, talk about Dove Ranch, we eliminate, I think it was 280 homes, if I remember correctly.
That was around there.
At 2.5 daily trips, 2.5 twice a day, five trips a day on the roads, which would go straight out into Dove Ranch because they wouldn't go through the church property. That's a pretty big impact. We avoid that one. We cut down on the drainage. We open the space up. As we continue to grow, and I've been looking at this, and I've had conversations with people, as we continue to grow Bayfield, we're running out of open space. We're running out of that space where you can kind of, chase the dog. That's a whole other story. Don't get me started on the dog parks, okay? And I look at this as just, he was talking about divinely inspired. I don't know if I'd go that far, but, something that this community could use And you look forward, if we look forward, if this happens, and we look forward in the future 20 or 30 years, people are gonna say, this planning commission was really smart that they put that in there. Okay? As opposed to, shit, I can't get anywhere, there's too much traffic. So, you know, there are times where you have the opportunity to impact your community a lot. I will tell a little story. I used to live, don't hate me for this, I used to live in California, in a town right on the ocean. I know, but I'm here now. There was a park they called Wilderness Park, and it had a pond, and it had trees that had been there since the 20s, and you could walk through it, you could take the dogs in there, in the middle of this town. And people always went, holy shit, this is really nice. Who thought of this? Well, it was somebody back in 1920 that said, I'm gonna take this piece of property, and I'm gonna make it a park, and we'll see what happens. And years later, it was a gem. I see this as the potential for a Bayfield gem, okay? And so, I guess I've said my piece on that. Traffic, yes, we're gonna have some issues with traffic, and I think we indicated some issues in the 14 points that need to be addressed, and that's fine. Maybe the county could even step up a little bit. Yeah, well, you never know, you know. It's probably more of opportunity to get the county to get involved than to get my $18 million for the parks, George Stevenson Park South, you know. You think? Okay, well, we'll see. We'll duke it out of that. Anyway, those are my comments. That was my question, and thank you very much. Bucky? We'll say something.
Well,
how's the drainage gonna work?
No, I like that they're thinking about the drainage. I appreciate that you guys are starting to get that we're having a problem with that, and so I thank you. The other side is I agree with you. I think this is something our town needs, and I'd like to see it. We have the fairgrounds in Durango, we have the Downs in Ignacio, but Bayfield doesn't have anything, and we're supposed to be a ranching and farming community, and we have no way to let our kids express that. So I think that that is a wonderful idea, and I am very much in favor of it.
Tom?
I think it's a great project. I'm not excited for it. We need to have other recreation around town, whatever. I mean, it's a good project all the way around. It's good for what it's going to bring to the community. And with the creature back there, when he says that, you know, they may not pay the property taxes, but it is going to be
generate some revenue. Yep.
It would be a big economic impact. I'm all for it.
Well, Brian, you're last.
I guess I'd echo a lot of what everyone's saying. I think it's a good project. I think there's a lot of thought that's gone into this initial design and trying to shield and address some of the concerns that have been brought up by residents of Dove Ranch, that this is literally in their backyard. So I appreciate that effort and where it's going. I just encourage you to keep it up. I think the phasing and not pulling this, we'll pipe the ditch and deal with it later mentality has got to come to a head here in town. So continue to carry that forward and make sure those issues are addressed that you know are hot topics around town right now, and address that up front. So
It's all well and good until the rodeo comes to town and they start shoveling that stuff that falls out of the cows and the horses. It's stacked up over there next to Dove Ranch.
It's great for your yard. It's good for the dog, good for the yards.
Okay.
You go to Home Depot and spend $5 per bag.
For the same stuff, that's right. There's a revenue stream.
Revenue for the town. We sell it to everybody from Durango.
Ready for a motion?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, I'm done talking. I move we approve the Pine River Valley Church use by review request for an event center / arena and the comprehensive plan amendment, changing the subject property's future land use designation from medium density residential to rural agricultural based on the findings provided by staff and the 14 conditions as listed in the report, highlighting specifically the traffic one. That's a big one. final drainage, I don't think that's gonna be a problem, and we're back to, and the big one for me is that any future expansion, including camping areas, shall require additional review and approval. So it's not a carte blanche to do exactly everything you want, but generically, yes. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Except for the generic.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tenza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ransford,
Yes.
Mayor Ah,
Yes.
and Chair Gad.
Yes. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on, review, discussion, and adjourn.
Yeah, so you guys can listen to this, or you sit for 2 minutes, and then you guys can all leave. I would like us to start having some study sessions once a month. We'd have to talk about how many of us could get back for a study session. We talked about drainage. We had something else we had talked about before that we were gonna work on study sessions on, and I can't remember what it is, but you can go back in the notes and figure that one out. I think it's important for us to have opportunities, it'll be a public meeting, but it's not a public participation meeting, for the planning commission legally to get together and kick some ideas around, talk to staff, explore things. It's not gonna happen everything's not gonna happen at once. It's a progression of ideas, progression of questions. How come we can, how come we could, da-da-da-da-da. So can we start some communication on that kind of thing?
Yeah, we got that extra Tuesday at the end of the month. We can, if you want, if that's part of the idea, is to kind of gather.
I think we,
6:30 and-
I think we should do something, if not every month, every other month.
Every other month.
You know, I started this when I was on the county planning, and we ended up with, I think, 6 meetings a month. It was a heavy load, but that's why things got accomplished, because you work forward instead of waiting for a month to do anything. So I would think either every month or every other month to have a study session on something. They don't have to be contiguous, you know.
Right, right.
So that's my request as a commissioner.
Okay.
What do you think? You're not gonna be here, you know.
He's not going to be here for very much longer.
Bucky, what do you think?
Yeah, I think doing a little bit of extracurricular stuff would be a good idea. I definitely could do that every other month, I know that.
Okay.
It's tough during the summer months, you know, to make every month.
But you know, if we
twice a
didn't
month,
have all
but-
these people wasting our time talking, we could accomplish a lot more. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, let me know when y'all are doing the drainage one. I'd like to show up for that.
Okay, all right. We won't let you talk, but you could nod your head.
I'll learn it there, too.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and we're not making decisions, so
Right.
those of us that
Right.
can be there can participate, those that can't,
Yeah.
can get caught
Yeah.
up. A month is too far, we can't make any movement on the things that we're seeing doing this just monthly.
Right, right. So you'll work,
Would you be opposed to board participation if the board wanted to go in on that and call it a work session?
Well, when we're dealing with trustees, we get to some legal, it depends on the number of trustees attending at one time.
But-
Trying to
Well,
throw some ideas out.
here's
no,
what
no.
I would think, is as the commission, and hopefully we can get 7 members at some point in time, we kick through this stuff, we come up with some ideas, we come up with some conclusions that could go, then we can come to the board with them and staff and say, here's what we would like to do, because ultimately the board's got to approve a lot of this.
That's true, otherwise
But
you're
we
hearing
can-
it twice.
We can get a cohesive idea and a plan, and then we come to you guys. Does that make sense?
But-
Okay, so finally I made sense today. We have just once. Okay, that's all I had, so.
No, that sounds good.
You got some direction there.
That I do.
And maybe we can train Jeremy how to use the computer over there, I don't know.
Good luck.
That's all.
I definitely think it's a good idea. We got some stuff we gotta get cleaned up.
Okay.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
The town's bad.